Hello, and welcome to our 5th Connected Communities series episode. This week, we will be focusing on the practice and art of mindfulness.
Hello, everyone. Let's talk about mindfulness and IPV survivors. Mindfulness is about focusing on one's thoughts and emotions and how they affect your behavior, both negative and positive. For example, self-kindness brings kindness towards oneself while at the same time acknowledging one's shortcomings. Self-kindness can be prompted in the same manner that one might express compassion towards another person. We can understand that our pain is not unique to ourselves alone. This can promote soothing, self-soothing, and self-reassurance in the moments when you might be experiencing a crisis situation. Mindful self-compassion can reduce feelings of self-blame for IPV survivors. Self-blame may serve to subdue conflict when a potential deadly or harmful threat may be happening, or when the residual effects are still being felt. While self-blame may satisfy the abuser and create temporary safety for the survivor, the residual effects are often internalized. Mindfulness can help survivors to understand that they are not the issue or the cause of someone else's violent or aggressive behavior, whether that be verbal or physical. The phrase, "you made me do this," it is a lie, and one way abusers shift blame from themselves to the victim. You are responsible for your own actions, as your abuser is responsible for their own actions. Bear in mind, mindfulness does not fix the problem, but it can help to start the process of finding the root cause of one situation, and in turn, you can seek the help that is needed. Being proactive is always better than being reactive.
We are very proud and excited to welcome back Jessi Hoey for the 3rd and final time in our Connected Communities series. Jessi stumbled into the practice of yoga as a way to manage IBS and mental health. She quickly fell in love with the physicality of yoga and began her training in 2013. She had no idea of the depth of philosophy and sacred history that this training would introduce her to, which has completely transformed her life and plunged her into a never-ending journey of self-discovery. She shares the practice of yoga with others as an offering of profound transformation and is excited about seeing her community grow and evolve in awareness and in consciousness. She is a forever student of the ancient mystery schools of wisdom, earth medicines, and healing practices, and is always gathering more knowledge to integrate into her own life and to share with her students. She teaches from the heart, using her own experience and vulnerability to create a safe space for others to open up to the profound and ineffable mystery of being.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this workshop on empowerment. This is a workshop that will include breathwork, a bit of a guided meditation through a body scan so that we can connect to our body and to our nervous system in a more meaningful, more intentional way, and some tools that we can utilize when it comes to kind of reframing the past in the present. Now, the body remembers everything. So we hold within our cells, within our muscles, and the tissues of the body, memories of the past. And what can be challenging as we embark on a healing journey is that sometimes the body is almost acting out of past conditioning. And so we go through different moments and different experiences in which we respond in an old way. And so in order to break any type of an old pattern, we have to instill a new one and put most of our energy into creating something new versus breaking something that's old. And so this is a practice really of self-awareness, which is a huge part of being on any type of a mindful journey. And the practice of self-awareness allows us to really moment to moment check in with ourselves, check in with our nervous system, check in with our breathing patterns, and decide in each moment how we are going to reframe things so that we feel safe, so that we feel maybe a little bit more at ease and maybe a little bit more joyful in our day-to-day experiences. So the nervous system is one of the things that is challenging and yet so easy to work with, because there are certain tools, as we discussed in our yoga segment, that, you know, even just the simple act of breathing helps us to recalibrate the nervous system. So because the body operates based on memory, what can be challenging sometimes is that we go through certain experiences in our past that maybe have created very traumatic responses for us, very traumatic memories for us. And when we experience something that seems similar in the present, we respond in an old way out of conditioning, for protection, for self-preservation. And so we're looking at really reframing this way of thinking and being so that we can start to create a new experience for ourselves, especially as we move along this healing journey and we are, you know, creating new experiences, meeting new friends, new support systems in our lives on our journey, and hopefully creating a new way of being in our lives. So we're going to go through a little bit of breath work, a little bit of a guided meditation and body scan, as well as look at the tools of affirmations, which for me I found really helpful in kind of reframing scenarios. There are times where I catch myself in old behavior patterns, old response patterns, and that's me operating out of a truth that's no longer true in this moment. So there are times where I'm operating out of a place of fear or lack or not feeling safe. And I have to catch myself in those moments. It's taken years of practice. Catch myself in those moments and remember what's true now. What's true now in this moment is that I am safe. And I'm having a nervous response to something that feels similar, except for that in this moment, that's an old truth. And the new truth is that I'm safe and that I'm healthy, or whatever the reframe is in any given moment. So we're going to start. Just find a comfortable place to sit. If you'd like to lie down, you can. Lying down can be nice for the body scan. It just gives you a better sense of, you know, individual parts of the body, but you can be seated just like I am as well. So making yourself comfortable. We're going to start with just a short breathing exercise, which starts to allow us to bring the nervous system into a different regulation. It helps us to turn off stress, which is our cortisol hormonal response, and helps us to turn on the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and repair, rest and digest, rest and recover process of the body. So you can close your eyes if you like. Just let your hands rest comfortably wherever they are. Sometimes if you are reclined, it is nice to place your hands on your body somewhere just to make connection with yourself, creating that sense of safety and security within your own body from the inside out. And you might lick your lips and swallow, just unclench your jaw, relax your shoulders down, smooth any of the wrinkles in the face. Just notice where you're carrying tension in your body and start to soften. Breathing in and out through the nose. And maybe just starting by taking the deepest breaths that you've taken all day. In fact, sometimes it's quite nice to breathe in through the nose, really fill up, and just sigh out the mouth. Maybe twice more like that, breathing in. And sighing as loud as you like. One more big breath in. And let it all go. And then just start to notice and observe the patterns of your breath. Often when we are in a state of nervous response, our breathing is shallow. It's up in our chest, up in the throat almost. And we want to encourage that breath to come deeper into the belly. Start to think about adopting more of a 3-dimensional breath where your breath is traveling deep into your belly, wide into your ribs, and tall into your heart, into your chest, into your throat. Take a few full belly breaths, full 3-dimensional breaths in this way before we begin. And the breath work that we're going to work with this session is an elongated exhale. So when we are looking to calm the nervous system, lengthening our exhales is a great way to turn off the fight or flight sympathetic nervous system response, that stress response, and turn on that relaxation, rest and repair parasympathetic function. So we'll start just by counting something really, really easy to manage. Like, let's say 3 counts on your inhale. And then 6 counts on your exhale. Continue in this way. Breathing in for 3. Breathing out slowly for 6. And take a few rounds like this, just feeling the chest rise and fall. Slowing down the exhale. Trying to calm the pulse. So notice what it feels like to breathe in this way. In and out through your nose. Deep inhales and long, slow, drawn out exhales. You might even start to extend the breath, getting longer and longer with your exhales. What you'll notice as you're breathing in this way is that working with a timed breath, a shorter inhale, a longer exhale, requires your awareness, it requires your attention. So not only are we starting to calm the nervous system, but we are also bringing ourselves into awareness, into presence. We're going to take a few more breaths like this, and we're going to move right into our guided body scan meditation. So making any adjustments that you might need to make. Feel the breath enter and exit through the nostrils, fully filling and fully emptying the lungs. Softening the jaw, relaxing the shoulders down, feeling all of the tension in the body just start to melt away. Taking a nice deep breath in through the nose, and out through the mouth. And starting to bring your awareness now to the tips of your toes. Feeling each and every toe. Just allowing the toes to start to feel more relaxed. Bringing your awareness to the soles of the feet. Allowing the feet to become more relaxed. Bringing your awareness to the tops of the feet, to the ankles. Softening and relaxing through the whole feet. Allowing your awareness to travel up to the lower legs, the shins, the calves. Just giving permission for the lower legs to soften, to release, to relax. Bringing your awareness up to both knees, front of the knees, the backs of the knees, sides of the knees. Allowing a sense of warm relaxation to move through the knees. Drawing your awareness up to the upper legs, the front of the thigh, the back of the thigh. Feeling all of the muscles in the upper legs soften, release, and relax. Feel your legs become heavy, your feet become heavy. Bring your awareness to your hips, your pelvis, the front of your hips, the sides of your hips where your legs meet the body, the backs of the hips, the glutes. Relax all of the muscles, any little clenching might be taking place in the hips and the pelvis. Soften, release, relax. Bringing your awareness to your lower back. Just release tension there. Let the low back become relaxed. Bringing your awareness to the middle spine. Just feel the spine melt down. Sense of release and relaxation. Bring your awareness to your belly. Just feel it rise and fall as you breathe deeper in and longer out. Bring your awareness to your ribs. Feel them expand and contract. Releasing any tension, any restriction. Bringing your awareness to your upper spine, the shoulders, the chest. Start to feel your body here become relaxed. Letting the shoulders melt away from the ears, getting heavier into the mat beneath you. Bringing your awareness down to the upper arm bones, the fronts and backs of the upper arm. Just releasing any tension, softening, releasing, relaxing. Bringing your awareness to each elbow. Just allow a sense of relaxation. Calm and soothe the elbow crease, the back of the elbow. Allowing your awareness to drift to your lower arms, the forearms, front and back. Just feel the forearms soften and release. Bringing your awareness to your wrists. Relaxing the wrists. Awareness to the fronts and the backs of the hands and fingers. Release any tension that you find here. Drawing your awareness up the arms and shoulders, right to the throat, the neck. A deep breath in. Feel the neck expand, the throat expand to receive the breath. Relax any tension in your neck, your throat. Bring your awareness to your jaw. Lick your lips and swallow. Releasing any tension in the jaw, any tightness across the lower face. Bring your awareness up to your cheekbones, your nose. Take a deep breath in through the nose. Just feel the upper portion of your face start to relax, softening all of the muscles around the eyes, the muscles that hold expression in the face, the furrow of the brow, softening the forehead, allowing the face just to be neutral, relaxed, expressionless. Bring your awareness to the crown of your head and almost feel a warm sensation, like a hot shower, dripping from the crown of the head down the back of the skull, relaxing all the little muscles in the head, relaxing the muscles behind the ears, at the base of the skull. And then breathe into your relaxed body. Now that we have relaxed the physical body, start to inquire a little deeper. How do I feel? Can we soften and relax the emotional body? So many things take place in our emotional body, our head, our heart. But in this moment, there are no need for any emotions. Just allow yourself to be in a neutral state. Relaxed, calm, heavy body. Deep, wide, tall breath. Neutral emotional state. For a few moments, resting in the neutrality of being without stimulus. Breathing in to really experience what it feels like to be in this moment as it is. Honoring any emotions that may still be in the back burner, or perhaps very prevalent in front of the mind. We soften our inner reactivity to our own emotions and just allow whatever is present within us to be without resistance, without trying to fix our state of being, but appreciating our own capacity to move through a very wide range of human emotions. And that right now in this moment, the emotions that are present within you are the emotions that are present within you. As best as you can, soften your identifying as the emotions and instead experience them almost like a third-party witness. Notice any feelings, any emotions that come to the surface. And instead of attaching an identity to them, For example, and this happens a lot with meditation and mindfulness, the mind becomes bored. So instead of identifying, I am bored, you reframe it as the witness, I'm experiencing boredom. I'm experiencing agitation. I'm experiencing frustration. I'm experiencing sadness. I'm experiencing grief. I'm experiencing joy. I'm experiencing ease. Whatever is coming up, try not to attach a sense of self to it, but instead allow it to move through you. Witness, hold space for what is. Let's take a deep breath in. And exhale, relax it out. Maybe starting to invite some small movements into your body, your fingers, your toes. Maybe finding a little bit of a stretch for the body, and slowly, as you feel ready, starting to blink the eyes open. Now, if you have a notebook or a journal handy, you can feel free to grab that, and maybe you ponder a little more than you write for now. Perhaps you pause the recording and come back to it, and you have a little bit more time to reflect. So feeling the state of your body now. Now, this was a short practice, and we call it a practice because it requires us to come back to it over and over and over and over again. We are trying ultimately to learn a new way of being. I'm speaking to you as somebody who is working with anxiety, who is working with some childhood trauma, and I have to practice this fairly regularly. I'm not always calm. It's not necessarily my natural state of being. And so these tools are tools in my tool belt that over the years, I have remembered more often to pull them out and to use them in an active moment-to-moment practice. So because the body remembers everything, and because the nervous system is programmable, because life is hard, for some of us a lot more challenging than others, we go through things in life that we almost need to unlearn the behavior patterns that came out of a need to survive certain circumstances. And so affirmations are a really powerful thing to work with. This has been really beneficial for me on my journey. And basically an affirmation is almost like a statement, like an I am statement. So when we were going through that emotional scan, one of the things that I mentioned was not to identify as your emotions. In some of these more holistic practices, we would refer to emotions almost as being like energy in motion. It's not your disposition. It's not who you are as a person. It is something chemically that's actually moving through you. And when we run into issues is when we try to suppress emotions. We don't want to feel them, sometimes because they're too painful to feel. And that's a process of expanding our container to experience difficult and challenging emotions. And so this idea of like self-identification, the way that we talk about ourselves to ourselves is very, very powerful. And I would wager that most of us are very, very hard on ourselves. In fact, we can be nasty. We can be mean. And this is learned behavior. We don't come into the world with self-loathing. We learn that over time. We learn to be self-critical. We learn to blame ourselves. And so what's important, and this is where mindfulness is so helpful, is we have to catch ourselves in the moment. When I was young, I read a book called The Secret. You might have heard of it. And it's, I think, a documentary now on Netflix. And I take it with a grain of salt. There's some things I like about it, some things I don't. One of the things that really was powerful about that book was it introduced this concept about like becoming almost like a gatekeeper for all your thoughts. So everything that goes through your mind, you are to be consciously responsible for. And so I started to, which was very, very challenging, and even still, I'm practicing this, started to observe my own thoughts. And I came to realize that I was one of the most negative people I had ever met. And the scary thing about that is that I don't think anybody I knew at the time would have described me that way. So this was like a closet experience that I was having just on my own. I think a lot of us can relate to that. And so I started to make a deal. And I think this was actually part of the book. The challenge was to replace every one negative thought with 3 more powerful positive thoughts. That's hard. That actually became exhausting, to the point that it trained me to stop thinking so many negative thoughts. Now, this is not to say that that is over, but the war is a little bit more manageable than it used to be. So, for example, when I would have these really debilitating negative thoughts, a lot of them are about myself, but I found myself being in a lot of judgment about other people as well. And I would catch myself, and I didn't catch myself every time. And this is the part of mindfulness. It's such a process. But when I would catch myself in a negative thought, I would have to pause all mental action. I made a promise to myself and replace it with 3 positive. And that was really hard to do, but a really important practice. So that's something, a tool that you could work with if you feel called. But one of the things that is so important, and you'll catch yourself now that you are, embarking on a more mindful state of being, it's anything that we attach to the words I am. Anything that we attach to the words I am is incredibly powerful. And so we want to be very, very mindful of how we speak to ourselves. In fact, I heard recently, and I think this is a great idea, getting a picture of ourselves as a little girl, as a child, and sticking it somewhere where we're going to see it often, like a bathroom mirror, or somewhere that we're going to see it all the time, in the car, or wherever we spend a lot of our time. And when we have those thoughts, those self-loathing thoughts, those thoughts that are really damaging to our own self-esteem, we look at that photo, and we would never talk to our child self like that. That's not how we would speak to a child. And so why is it okay for us to speak to ourselves this way now? And it's reframing what we believe to be true about ourselves. So I like to work with affirmations in many different ways, but for the context of today's session, about ourselves, the way that we think about ourselves. And so what I would like for you to do is, and this might take some time, maybe this doesn't happen in the next 5 minutes, maybe this is something that you just sit with, you make a little question mark in your journal, and I want you to start to think about what are the recurring negative self-thoughts. Pick a few, 2, maybe 3, good place to start. Most of us have a lot more than that, but pick 2 or 3 of those thoughts and write them down. Okay, these are the thoughts that are negative about ourselves. So a lot of mine, if I can share with you, would be really along the lines of like not feeling good enough, not being worthy enough, not being enough, period. Feeling like I'm not allowed to take up space, to have an opinion, to be myself. Like that's just not enough. And so that was a constant theme for me. It's still something that I'm working with. Others have been, I'm not smart enough, I'm stupid. It's another one that I have worked through a lot. Okay, so pick a few that you, and maybe they don't come to you right away. Maybe as you start to sit with this, they'll come to you naturally as you're doing something else. So don't put too much pressure on yourself. But I want you to take these thoughts, and I want you to start to think about how you might reframe them so that when these thoughts come back into your experience, as they will over and over, because we are kind of like, we've memorized this state of being. So when we have experiences that maybe like kind of trigger us into old memories, into old behavior patterns, we start that negative self-talk. And so when you catch those similar themes or phrases or things that we say to ourselves, I want you to find a replacement statement, a replacement affirmation. Okay. And it's not about, for me, it wasn't enough. I couldn't just go from feeling like I'm literally not worth anything to changing that to a statement of I am worthy. I didn't believe it. It wasn't enough. And so we take baby steps because it has to be believable. It has to be something that, gives us hope. So I have often used the mantra or the affirmation, I am a work in progress. And that was, at least for me, a little bit more hopeful than I'm worth nothing. I'm working, I'm doing my best. That's another one. I am doing my best. and my best is enough. So I want you to start to think about, what is the nature of this self-talk? And how can I create a statement around that brings me more into the present moment? Sometimes we have these, maybe it's not necessarily negative self-talk, but we don't feel safe. And it brings us certain circumstances in our lives, bring us into this space of feeling like we're not safe. And this is where that breathing exercise comes in, and reminding ourselves that here in this moment, I am safe. Here in this moment, I have what I need. It might not feel like that all the time, but when we come into the present moment and we connect with the breath, we land a little differently inside of ourselves. So thinking about the nature of what this recurring thought pattern is, staying within that theme, and creating an I am statement to replace it. Okay, if yours is like mine, I'm not good enough, I'm stupid, I'm not worthy, I'm unlovable. That was another one for a long time. Statements that could replace that. I am love. I can love. And, I know when I was at the early stages of my healing journey, it all kind of felt a little corny. It felt a little silly, but it's actually very powerful when we're starting to put these things into practice. The way that we think about ourselves and the way that we talk to ourselves on a daily basis is so important. And so I love this reframe of the childhood photo, that when we start to think of ourselves in this really negative way, I want you to think of her, that little version. That's not how she deserves to be talked to. We might have the belief now that we deserve to feel the way that we feel, which is not really true, but we're working through reframing what true means for us on our journey. How would you speak to the younger version of you? So maybe if it's worthiness that we struggle with, I am so proud of you. How much do we tell ourselves these things? We want to be loved, and yet do we ever tell ourselves, I love you? So this is a really helpful practice for you to start to reframe how you talk to yourself, how you think about yourself. I may have shared with you before the Orono prayer, the Hawaiian prayer. I'd like to share it with you again if I've already shared it, because this is a really powerful one as well. And I like to use this. This is essentially an affirmation too. It's an offering. This is something that I often do either when I'm in a space of self-loathing, in a rut, and I can't get myself out of it. And I pair this with breath work and with a mindfulness practice. And actually, we'll do it together. Let's do it together right now. Okay, but this is also something that we can use to really offer privately to people that we find it hardest to love, hardest to forgive. This is a beautiful way of us learning to let go of some of those things from our past that we get really hung up on, that kind of act as a roadblock for us, that we're not able to move past, because it's almost like proof that if I was good enough, this situation never would have happened. And what we forget in our journeys, because we are seeing things only ever from our own vantage point, we forget that everybody that we come into contact with is also on their journey and also has their story and also has their negative self-talk. And so when we can start to reframe that it's not me, it's them, and that if somebody is nasty and unkind, they are probably dealing with a nasty, unkind inner world, a nasty, unkind past, a nasty, unkind story, because people that are healthy and whole and healing are not nasty or unkind to other people. They're compassionate, they're forgiving, they get it, they understand, they have space for people to make mistakes. So we'll finish our session with a little practice of the Ho'oponopono prayer, and it can feel really hard to do, and it can bring up tears sometimes, and so just keep that in mind and allow yourself. It's really important. Here's another thing for your nervous system. It's actually so important to allow yourself to cry, to allow emotions to move through you. Vulnerability is actually strength. Have you ever been told, like, oh, you're such a rock, you're so strong? That's not necessarily strength, to bottle things up and suppress and hold them down. What we don't express, we suppress. And we don't want to suppress the things that are hurting us, the things that are causing us to continue to suffer in ways that perhaps we don't need to anymore. Perhaps we can rewrite that story now. And so allow yourself to let these emotions move through you. So whether you're seated or lying down, I want you to place a hand on your heart. Maybe another hand over top, maybe a hand on your belly, maybe a hand on your knee. Close your eyes, lick your lips and swallow. Start to let tension melt away. You'll notice that even as we've been sitting here, that more tension accumulates back up into the shoulders, back up into the belly, back up into the chest. So just let it all soften and melt away. Breathing a little deeper, a little wider, a little taller. Now, I want you to repeat after me. And the Ho'oponopono prayer is a Hawaiian prayer. It's 4 affirmations, 4 statements that we repeat aloud or silently in our mind's eye. And I want you to direct it to yourself. And if it's too challenging to direct it to the self that you experience now, I want you to direct it to the younger version of you, the child self. Take a deep breath in. And exhale, let it go. And repeat after me, either silently or aloud. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Just notice your breath. Notice any emotions that have come forward in reciting those statements. It just reflects to us where we are on our journey of self-love and healing. And it's okay to be where you are. And start to blink your eyes open. Feel free to write those statements down in your journal so that you can come back to them. It is so powerful to tell ourselves that we love ourselves. It's so powerful to tell ourselves that we forgive ourselves for all the times that maybe we didn't show up for ourselves the way that we should have, could have, wanted to. All the times that we didn't speak, all the times that we didn't act, or we took action that we feel guilt for. And so allowing ourselves to make mistakes, to be human is to be messy. It's to, act and react. And we're all going through it and doing the best that we can with the cards that we have been dealt. So another powerful practice is to take those statements and to direct them towards maybe the difficult ones in your life. I used to send these to most of the women in my family. There's a lot of trauma in the female side of my family. So these were statements that, and at first they made me sick because there was a lot of anger. It's taken me years to work through and actually feel truth when I can say those words. But we got to start somewhere. And so my invitation to you is to find some of those inner dialogues that take place on a regular basis. Reframe them with your I am statement or your affirmation that, brings you more into the present moment. No, we're not perfect. Is that really the goal? Or is the goal just to be a better version than yesterday? We're doing our best. Sometimes our best doesn't feel good enough, but we're doing our best. And nobody can ask any more of you. So working with this idea of being a mental gatekeeper, observing every thought, every emotion, every way that the dialogues, those inner dialogues that we have with ourselves, every way that we speak to ourselves, about ourselves internally, even out loud. And feel free. Sometimes I will announce to friends that I'm close to, that I trust, that, hey, I'm in the practice of reframing this belief system. So if you hear me saying something like, I'm not good at, could you please remind me that instead I'm saying I'm getting better at? Okay, it's okay to ask for help. In fact, it really strengthens our relationships when we allow a little bit of vulnerability into those relationships with people that can be trusted with our vulnerability. Not everybody gets to be trusted with that. Okay, so it's this idea of reframing. Instead of I'm not good at, I'm getting better at talking to myself with love and compassion, whatever it is. The beautiful thing about a mindfulness practice is that you have a mind and it's with you all the time. And so as you go out into your daily life, you can be in the practice. It takes a lot of energy sometimes. And so don't feel like you have to do this 100% of the time. But when you catch yourself, brilliant opportunity to mindfully reframe or bookmark it for next time, because sometimes it's hard. It's too hard. So my invitation for you is to try to observe your thoughts, try to reframe any negative self-talk that you catch, and tell yourself that you forgive yourself and that you love yourself as often as you can. The relationship that you have with yourself is the most important relationship that you will have with anyone. It starts with us. Peace is an inside job. It doesn't rely on external phenomenon when the conditions are perfect. It is an inner state of being. So I invite you to embark on this journey. It could take up an entire lifetime. What else are we going to do? Thank you so much for taking the time to sit with me, to observe your thoughts, to go through the practices. I hope that you find a little bit of peace in these practices. And don't forget to come back to your breath. That will bring you immediately into the present moment. And the present moment is where all the work happens. It's where we can reframe our story and create a new one. Have a beautiful, beautiful day wherever you are. Bye for now.